All right, Chris, we got a new women's champion, Thekla.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, don't love the finish. With the distraction and the champ losing her focus and then paying a price for that. But they're trying to protect her a little bit, and that's how wrestling booking is. But the strap match was intense, and Statlander bled a lot, and we have a new champion. I don't know if it, the way she won, I don't know if it gives her a ton of momentum, but kind of gives her old school heat. What do you think?
Yeah, I didn't expect it, especially since we had the title change earlier on in the evening. So 2 title changes on TV before a big event. I didn't clock that, so I wasn't expecting her to win at all. It's 2 weeks in a row where I've left really surprised by the main event and by the playing out of it. So I enjoyed it. Was along for the ride. Like you, I don't know where they're going with it. Statlander's reign feels slightly anticlimactic, I think, with this loss. Hopefully she gets it back, but I am looking forward to seeing what comes.
So we can kind of do a look back at Stat's reign and, what was it worth it? What was the point, to phrase it more negatively, when you consider the sacrifice of Toni Storm?
Right.
And then also, look at, does Thekla seem like she's ready to hold the top title given the options? I'll throw a couple comments from the chat in here to kind of spark things. Mike Good in the chat said Mike Good too, says they have better options than Stat or now Thekla. Another comment, where was that? Oh, somebody had mentioned, I guess I didn't highlight it, that they wish that they never took the belt off of Toni Storm if this is what they were going to be doing. So go ahead. I'll look for a couple of comments there. But yeah, let's focus first on Statlander's reign.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it had the feel of unintentional interim, or as we're seeing now, perhaps an intentional interim, which is a strange thing, I think, given her popularity, given how it felt like they were trying to build her up into something, right? The cosmic killer, their very own Wonder Woman, even though Megan Bain might fit that more. Mm-hmm. So it never felt like that took off. The trajectory of trying to get her to embody the cosmic killer name, it never fully materialized for me during her reign.
Yeah, I mean, it turned out to be sort of a platitude without any layering or depth. And it does feel, a little one-dimensional for 2025, 2026, to introduce a character who just is saying that if you want them to be kind of top level and you're planning for them to be world champion. And so I think it did feel a little flat. And that's kind of reflective in the chat comments right now. Fan Bless said they never should have taken the belt off Toni in the first place to do a failed experiment with Stat. I will say in their defense, they did not take the belt off Toni to do a failed experiment with Stat. They did it to do an experiment with Stat that they hoped succeeded, and it turned out that it failed. I'm just picking on the wording there, but a little bit. But Fan Blast adds, that main event was just odd. Stat was never over as champ, even though she beat Mercedes and Toni. Thekla was never built up to be a contender, thus the title change, and absolutely no one cared. Greg P. Bowles, welcome to the chat. Greg says, weird finish to the show. Derek Mitchell says, AW is the definition of 2 steps forward, 10 steps back. Small thing, but Real Legend goes, didn't know why the whole match had to be in the overrun at that point. It's just a 2 or 15-minute show, LOL. I mean, it gives them a chance to not have to hyper time everything precisely and have kind of a loose, I mean, they follow it pretty close, but they don't have to worry exactly about ending at the top of the hour. So I think they're more comfortable with it, and they get an extra commercial break in. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Usually the match isn't just completely in the separate hour, but I think that's happened before. So go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. So when she won, and stands up there, it felt oddly quiet, right? No boos, no cheers. I mean, a smattering of some. Maybe people just weren't expecting it, like maybe a lot of us weren't. Or the worse option is no one cared, as I pointed out, and I fear that that's what's going to happen, right? Without having much built up in the way of her contendership, of the pathos behind it, other than wanting to get toxic week after week after week. What is she going to offer in her reign. I mean, we haven't seen it, but we also haven't seen enough to even have an idea of what might come. Yeah, so I kind of I'm interested insofar as it felt like a surprise, but I hope it doesn't turn out to be a surprise for surprise sake.
Yeah, yeah. Zach Barber says the reign of Statlander is over. Let us rejoice.
Man, I grew into it. I really did.
Yeah. Derek Mitchell says, I don't think there's anything unique or special about Statlander. She's just bigger than most of the division, has been with the company from the beginning. Zach Barber adds, the main event was very good. The only thing was Sky Blue distracting the ref unnecessarily. Would you have just done a clean finish here, Chris? Because you don't have a strong heel champion in Thekla. Like, there's
right.
I don't think people are like, oh, this was a long time coming and a culmination. It felt kind of like Brody King feels, which is, it's a bridge to get you to somebody else. I was not ruling it out, and I was not against the title change, not so much because of Thekla's momentum, but I just felt Statlander didn't have momentum. I think they had lost faith in her a little bit. She's still in search of a voice, a consistent voice on her promos, and how to kind of connect that to how she wrestles in the ring. And I thought Thekla would lose momentum if she just sort of was treated as a bridge challenger to get to a bigger challenge. And so, they need to create stars and elevate stars. Why not just have Thekla win clean? What harm comes from that? And then you can still have the heels attack her after it's 3-on-1.
Right. Yeah, I didn't like that they had interference as part of the finish because it took away from the power of Thekla winning decisively and cleanly in a brutal strap match. I mean, there's something to be said for her just beating the crap out of Stat and not needing anything other than violence to go over. Right? That probably would have generated something more than a semi-clunky finish with some interference, right? So I would have liked to have seen that. And I think to your point, it would have probably made the moment feel more powerful than something more than superfluous, but not quite memorable.
Yeah. Controller Flex in the chat says, once Statlander came out of a Dragon Ball Z capsule, I was done. Bacon says, I think Thekla winning was unexpected after Fletcher beat Ciampa for the TNT title. Fletcher and Ciampa seemed like it was headed toward a time limit drop. I agree with that. We'll definitely, in a separate segment, talk about that match. Zach Barber says, Thekla seems to have a stronger personality than Stat, and she's got lackeys behind her. There's more to work with there than with Statlander. Yeah, I think you can use this to elevate Thekla going forward. She gets a win. Again, I wish it was clean, and she got her heel lead from her cohorts attacking Statlander afterwards. You could have done the exact same angle because she is now a weak heel champion. You needed to cheat to win. So you have that working against her. But it's not like, oh, this is great and she's cementing herself. But I think if she's going to be a significant figure, getting this win gives her a chance to be that. I think there's still enough there to build on it. I just don't know. I have a ton of faith in AEW pulling it off. Because obviously, we're 7 years into Tony Khan's booking. He's not passionate. He got passionate about Tony Storm and maybe one or two other little glimpses here and there, but his passion comes across more as men's wrestling.
Yeah. I do, I fear I'm not necessarily the future, but the future of the division looks not quite bleak, but it's not expanding at a rate where it seems like it should. There isn't given even nearly the proximity of equality in terms of TV time or focus, and to continue to promote itself as, whether unofficially, the progressive voice or the space where there's a multiplicity of experiences. Yeah, they really do need to do a better job. So if this starts that, experimenting with Thekla, allowing a different kind of style of women's wrestler, right? There's something cool that could happen here.
What do you like most about Thekla that you build on if you're Tony Khan? If you have a vision, let's say here Tony Khan's committed to pushing her, what do you expect him to do or hope he does to get the most out of her? Now, obviously, more people are going to take her seriously because she isn't just a one-off challenger on a TV show leading into a bigger show on Saturday.
The first thing that comes to mind is defining what exactly it means to get toxic. She's been saying this over and over, but add some substance to it. Allow her to embody that toxicity in a way that's more than just a catchphrase or more than just sort of the inverted spider crawl, which is really cool, but it's got to be more than that.
And don't do it when you're about to win a match.
Right.
Like, I mean, pick, like, really, I mean, if you want people to take you seriously as a threat, you got to have a high wrestling IQ as a heel. Jake Roberts had a mystique about him, but he was a high IQ heel. Don't just do spots because, well, it's 2026, people know it's fake and I got a pop, so I'm just going to do it because matches don't need to make sense. Right. Like, do it when your opponent is clearly down and not moving, and never let it backfire on you, especially if you're a babyface. But even with a heel, it should be rare it backfires because you want people to think you're not a dope, that you care about the title and you're smart enough to not just do some weird, creepy move in the middle of a fight with high stakes.
In the middle of a strap match when all it took was one little yank, right? Like there was. Because isn't that, I mean, she yanked her down from that spot, I think is when she was doing that. Yeah. So if I was Tony Khan, I would figure out what toxicity means. And I don't mean that tritely, give some substance to it. Let us see something of her apart from the Sisters of Sin, right? I mean, because she came in and then very quickly was thrown in to the Triangle of Madness, had the Sisters of Sin. Show us who she is on her own, the kind of brutality, the kind of IQ. Let us see what makes her ferocious, right? Give us matches that match her entrance and the aesthetic that she comes in with. That's kind of what I would do.
Yep, I agree. A few more other chat comments here on this topic. One man's voice says, look, when that bell rings, Stat is one of the best in the world, period. Standard Deviation says the distraction finish worked better than usual in this situation because Statlander's friends were in another country. So the implication was that she would have won on any other night. Standard Deviation also says that's an extra step of protection for Stat above mere interference. One man's, I already read that. There's another one here. Thekla from One Man's Voice. Thekla earned this spot. She got herself over fast and delivered. Derek Mitchell says, as Wade said, 7 years into AEW booking and only Britt Baker, Timeless, Tony Storm, and Mariah May felt like champions of consequence. Everyone had mediocre title reigns. Do you agree with that assessment overall? I mean, I think when people think of the top champs, those would be the four. I mean, Nyla Rose was early on. Trying to think who else people would like, arguably put in the top.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, she's two-time champion.
Yeah. She had definitely. I'd round that out to a top four based on that.
Yeah. So I think really those would be the names, right?
Yeah. Well, let us know in the chat or in the comments here if you're watching us on delay if we missed any names or who your top five women's champs or doesn't be. Do you have a top two, a top three, top four, top five, top six? How many do you put in terms of former AEW champions in the top tier who you think established themselves as historically significant champions in the context of AEW's women's division? I don't want to overstate the credentials, but you know what I mean? Like not just a champ who's forgotten about. So jump in the chat, or again, if you're watching us on demand, put it down in the comment section. Question. Love to hear what people think. Cause I think it's a topic that's subjective, but I think there's people who really, really have wanted AEW to have a strong women's division and have followed it closely. I know some of those people, and they have like really good individual memories of moments in this division that maybe deserve a little more credit or that stand out at least with them. I'd like to see AEW do more to talk about the history of the title leading into a title match. Mm-hmm. If you're going to do a title change tonight, I don't know that you want to spend a lot of TV time with like a video package on the heritage of the title. But I think on a pay-per-view where it's more of a captive audience, I would remind people of that. Yeah. Like I would say, this is the history of our division, and kind of do a little heavy lifting on the production side to make the title feel more important, because it's already watered down by having two titles. And sometimes the secondary TBS champ feels like a bigger star than the world champ. So I don't know. I would, especially with Thekla, if it's not just a transition champion thing, let's make it, not a New Year's resolution exactly, but a resolution this year to let's try to make the title help make the woman who holds it by talking more about the women who have held it and celebrating the lineage.
Right. Yeah, I think that would be something really good for them to do now, especially since it seems like more eyes are on the product. We know there's been lots of media attention positively. Seems like numbers have gone up. They've been attracting new fans. So it's the right time to do something like that. But I think you could also do some interesting things stylistically with Thekla and playing with the video package of a lineage versus somebody who seems pretty iconoclastic, right?
Mhm.
And to go back to the Thekla thing real quick, it seems like Thekla is what Statlander wants to be, somebody who is visually alternative, who has an edge about her. But Thekla seems to embody that a bit more authentically than Statlander does.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and
I think
there's
that's a good
something
point.
that
I
could be
thought that.
cool done for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. A couple other chats, and then we'll move on to other topics. I already mentioned that. Let's see here. Standard Aviation says Stat pulling the strap during Tekla's pose made me laugh.
Yeah, I
Fun
loved
moment.
it.
Van Bless says, yeah, Tony Khan seems to find doing the legwork boring, building up wins, doing character development. Everything is long matches and cop-out finishes. I mean, it's an oversimplified assessment of, I think, a more nuanced execution and reason for why Tony does it. But I don't think it's inaccurate either. It's not complete, but I don't think it's unfair to put it that way. And I mean, on tonight's show, they mentioned, well, maybe I'm forgetting or didn't notice. Did they hype this match other than a passing mention during the semifinal that this was coming up?
No, and I don't even think, I mean, they had the opportunity to do video packages. They did reviews of last week's belt beatdown, but nothing of any of the preceding stuff.
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about trying to make a women's title match headlining Dynamite seem important,
Right.
let's hear. I mean, I know it might sound contradictory of me, hypocritical to say give Stat the mic, but honestly, like, I just don't think there should ever be a world title match where you don't hear from champion and challenger earlier in the show.
Right.
It's more of a big picture critique of the show. I don't think they did better than like a C+ at making Saturday's Grand Slam feel like a big deal. I mean, it's coming up. It's not, they didn't ignore it. It's, if they had a really nice video. We'll talk about the MGF Brody King video pack, but they didn't. To me, you open the show and you emphasize with the announcers. There's a lot going on tonight's show, and we'll tell you about that in a moment. But all eyes are on Saturday at Grand Slam, Sydney, Australia, overseas, world title on the line. There was so much buzz in the mainstream media, you might have seen, and they apparently didn't want to address it over what happened last week. They don't need to be super specific, but at least acknowledge,
Right.
MJF and Brody King got a ton of attention in mainstream media all over the place after last week's show. But first things first, we have a world title match. The women's belt's on the line tonight. We're going to hear from Statlander and Thekla going into this, and we're going to hear from a few of the other women in this division with their thoughts on what they expect in this match. Like, and then you just do little sound bites going in and out of commercial breaks, or one vignette with the sound bites. Like, I don't think that's profound or controversial. I think it's actually controversial not to do that. And they didn't. I mean, they just, in Tony Khan's world, Twitter X is the be-all end-all. Everybody knows the match. If we mentioned it last week, they know it's happening this week. We'll mention it in passing. So it's not only just telling people who know the match is happening, like the match is happening, it's making the people it's not just telling people who don't know that the match is happening, it's happening. It's telling the people who do know it's happening what a big deal it is and getting them excited for it weaving it into the show. And I think they let Statlander and Thekla in the women's division down tonight with that effort. There were some bells and whistles. The Will Ospreay thing was great. Brody and MJF was well done. They have the ability to do it. They just chose not to.
Yeah, that is strange, especially since the spot with Kevin Knight last week I thought was so incredibly well done and well edited, the video package last week. To then not have anything leading up into this, you're right, is a glaring omission. And you do, I guess it does leave me wondering why. Is it an afterthought? It's got to be something other than as you said, X being the end all be all for him. Is it a lack of importance? Just seeing where the metrics are, or what? I mean, what do you account it for? Muted Wade.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
I think what Tony's booking is he books for himself when he was younger. And his younger self knows everything that's happening. He's thought about it all week. He's on the equivalent of social media, which is our rec sport, pro wrestling message boards and that kind of thing, all week. So I do think Tony is perpetually booking to himself, his younger self, and his younger self didn't need that to be interested in wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my psychoanalysis. It is not something Tony's admitted to and he's never said, but I think it's consistent with that. So yeah, that's my take on that. Anyway, let's pause. We got some comments in the chat on other champions maybe deserving to be in the top tier of champions. We'll get into that. Talk about the other title change, the build to Grand Slam, and more. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch weekly newsletter. Here's the latest copy from last week. And also the host of various podcasts, including these post shows after Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown, sometimes Impact. My plan is to also host a post show Saturday after Grand Slam, a special Saturday night edition, live on YouTube. So that's penciled in, and or in erasable ink. I don't know. That used to be, remember erasable ink pens back in the day? Yeah, is that still a thing? I mean, people just type now on their iPads at school.
I don't know. My son was like fascinated when I showed him one.
Yeah. I mean, so anyway, we're here to talk Dynamite. And by the way, you can always read my coverage of those TV shows I just mentioned on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night at PWTorch, our main website. We also have breaking news, flashbacks. We just put up our 5 years ago written reports on my report on AEW Dynamite from 5 years ago. It's kind of fun to see where they were 5 years ago this week. And also our NXT report back when they were going head to head. Earlier this week, we put up our 20 years ago Raw reports with the live sex show with Edge and Lita and my coverage of that. And so, yeah, some fun flashback articles and really strong writers on the team giving real perspective, especially Tuesday and Wednesday in the lead up to Dynamite. Some really good writing from our team of contributors. Zach Barber, who's in the chat, does his view tracker and does a more objective job in his columns than he does in the chat. I think most people would attest to assessing the state of AEW. He has to sleep on things to become objective. He just gets very riled up in pro AEW in chat. Anyway, and another benefit of going to PWTorch is not only do you read my TV report on Dynamite, but also Chris Adams' reports. He does all perspective reports. Those go up typically on Thursday or Friday, or maybe Thursdays now. Chris, welcome to the Coast Chair.
Hey, thanks a lot. It's always a fun time to be here, man. My pleasure.
Yeah, well, great to have you. We are both sipping from mugs I see during the show here.
That's right. What is yours? Mine's got a unicorn.
Mine is Twin Cities logo.
All right.
Yeah,
we're both rocking in style. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm drinking green tea. I'm battling a cold, so I'm not only talking softer, a little calmer than last week when I had a lot of rage over certain things on an otherwise solid episode. Also, just kind of low energy and trying to rest my throat and soothe my throat with tea. It's been a while since I've had tea. I need to drink tea more often. So I will take sips of that throughout the show and welcome the chat to join us. We also welcome live callers if you want to join the show. The link to be a live caller on the show, you can be on camera or mute your camera if you so choose or block it. That link is in my TV report at PWTorch for Dynamite. It changes every show. So you need to get a new link from my TV report in order to join the show. And also, and then you can also email us if that's easier. Wade Keller postshow at gmail.com. Wade Keller postshow at gmail.com is how to reach us. You don't have to watch the show live on our YouTube channel in order to participate. That's a way you can actually send an email with some thoughts as you're watching the show, even if you don't see the whole thing. And maybe we'll read your email on the air. The flagship episode of the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling podcast, which is not on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, it is podcast exclusive. That is up and available right now. Jason Powell from ProWrestling.net joined me yesterday. We talked a lot about the build to WrestleMania, the lack of instant sellout, which in a way we talked about is kind of by design. They price the tickets two and a half times roughly higher than last year. And, you know, I was a little concerned about them not selling, although I don't know if you can blame the booking or the pricing or the economy or go to the same market twice. Jason and I covered all that. We also talked about whether we're confident they're going to come up with 2 nights of WrestleMania worthy depth to the lineups, and also assessed whether the CM Punk Roman Reigns match can be in the league of the greatest WrestleMania main event ever. We also do, on the YouTube side of things, have a snippet of a discussion on that available if you want to listen to us talk about the pros and cons. Nick Barbati and I did that on Monday, and that snippet is up on our YouTube page too. Speaking of the YouTube page, please like this show. Please subscribe to our page, and also in the chat area, answer our question or topic that's pinned to the top. Might ask about the women. I'll ask about the women's division. I already did, but I might pin another topic to the top. So if you're watching us on YouTube, check that out and participate in that. And just spread the word on social media to your friends in wrestling. Let us know that we are here. We are also in podcast format, audio only, which is how most of you listen. It's a long form show. Podcasts are a little bit easier for that. And we've been doing podcasts for decades longer than we've been on YouTube. So join them. Search Wade Keller on your podcast app. That'll get you the Wade Keller podcast that Jason Paul and I from ProWrestling.net did yesterday. And also the audio version of these shows, along with some cool flashbacks, interviews, and more. Fun show coming up this weekend from, was it 10 years ago? Yeah, 10 years ago. I interviewed Homicide, who talked about Bryan Danielson early when he worked with him early in his career. Because Danielson had announced his retirement 10 years ago from WWE. And so Homicide gave some really fun stories about Danielson, just insight into his personality. We also have a Hurricane Helms interview after that. So a doubleheader coming up this weekend on the Blue Logo Show. So search Wade Keller on your podcast app to get that. All right. So let's get rolling with other topics here. Let's the chat was talking about this. Let's talk about whether they did a sufficient job promoting Saturday's Grand Slam Australia. It's up against the NBA All-Star festivities. Yeah. So they've got some competition there. Do you think, well, how would you grade, Chris, how they promoted that show?
Tonight, they talked about it throughout. Like we talked about, I would have loved to have seen some maybe slicker packages produced, but at least they did a few, like the MGF Brody King. The awareness was there. Is it feeling like just an enhanced episode of Collision? I don't think so. It seems like it's a pay-per-view level event. So I would give it a solid B+ in how they promoted it, talked about it. So,
a solid B+?
Yeah.
My vision for it for an event that I think is a big deal with a men's world title match in Australia. I mean, I'm more in the B- C+ range myself.
Okay.
I'm really, the video feature with MJF and Brody King was good, but it felt like what they might do for just a regular weekly Collision match. I think they failed to capitalize on what was a buzz last week. I guess they wanted to stay away from it. There's some logistics in terms of, getting to Australia and people on that show, not on this show. And I get that might have factored in, but I don't know. To me, they did the angle last week. They did a really nice, I wouldn't say great, but a really nice video package on it. I didn't need it. It was very unoriginal for MJF to just close. I'm going to make you my bitch.
Right.
Like any hack heel can close with, I'm going to make you my bitch. And by the way, there's plenty of evidence of hack heels closing with that go-to line. MJF should be above that. He's just, say it all the time, he's too talented to do lowest comedy denominator, low-hanging fruit stuff. So that soured me a little bit. It's not a big deal. It's a bigger deal to me than probably most people, and I have the bitchometer, so I had to reset that, and I always resent doing that. But I don't know. Kenny Omega mentioned Brody in the opening segment, but not really promoting the match. Everything about that segment was, which of us is going to get to fight MJF for the title. It didn't really feel like Brody King. It might have been implied, but to me, I would have weaved more hype for that. People aren't in the habit of watching Saturday nights. A lot of them aren't. Half of people are, whatever, give or take, but a lot aren't. And I don't know. That's just, I would have done more to really push the depth of the lineup.
Yes, to have such high stakes matches feel like a glorified Collision in its promotion. Yeah, I can agree with that. I still maybe would keep it at a B plus, but maybe I might concede a B. I don't know if I want to go to B
Yeah,
minus
I mean,
yet.
it's good for us to have a different view. I mean,
That's
it's
right.
subjective.
That's right.
I don't sit here and go, Chris is so wrong about his grade. He better change it or else. I mean,
Keep
but
it
I
up
mean, if
all
I'm
night,
persuaded you,
like,
fair enough. Yeah.
that's right. But you are right for especially with having such massive buzz and publicity on NBC News, to not have mentioned that, to not have had clips. I mean, one of the things that other promotions do, WWE does so well, is uh, anytime they get positive buzz, they want to remind you 5 times in a minute how well they're doing in the public's eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
And AEW really could stand to do a little more self-aggrandizing.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it is a promotion after all, right?
Yes.
So yeah, they could have done that.
Yeah. From a time standpoint too, you want to make it clear when it's, like what time it's airing and why it's not a collision, but it's a special event, really get into that. Because it is out of the ordinary, and let people know it's not a pay-per-view. It has a name, but it's not a pay-per-view. Like, I don't know, I put it no more. Fanblast says McMahon, Bischoff, and hell, Russo and Jarrett too would have all opened Dynamite with Brody talking about his title shot Saturday with an Abolish Ice t-shirt on. But Tony Khan isn't a promoter; he's a match presenter. I told Jason Powell, I don't think billionaires should be excused from standing up for, fascist actions from a corrupt government. If they honestly disagree with it, you don't make up your opinion, but I mean, I hope you disagree with it. It's pretty clear. It's, fascist tendencies, dictatorship tendencies, and crazy corrupt. If you don't know that, check out other news sources and what you're watching. I mean, it's astounding. We just walk through life being okay with it. Although
it's phenomenal.
Yeah. But if you have an opinion on it, people go, well, but they have so much. Rich people have so much to lose. They should stay quiet. Tony Khan can't do it. It threatened his. Maybe there's TV partners who are MAGA. It's like the people who have less to lose are the ones who are actually taking a stand right now.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, lean into it. Be that person who 5 years from now you can look back and be proud that you weren't one of those corporate people bending at the knee. Especially when the stakes are this high. So I made the case to Jason, and I just don't want to. I'm not like saying. By the way, I'm not isolating Tony Khan. It's like that he has an extra obligation above anybody else. That's not my point. It just so happened to be on a show last week, so I brought him up. I don't want to be part of the chorus of people excusing rich people who have too much to lose to speak out. In fact, I always thought this would never happen because the rich corporations would do the right thing, and it's very naive, and not let it get this far. So, to me, by not acknowledging that at all, it felt like Tony's deciding to be neutral about something that there shouldn't be any neutrality on, Chris. And so I think some people honestly are going to be disappointed in that because it does feel like he's ducking something that people were excited about last week. And I, based on who wrestling fans are, that chant and crashing poll ratings for Trump. I mean, I think the majority are like, we're rooting for AW to take a stand on this. They have on other issues. They've been brave about LGBTQ type issues, and I mean, they've done charity work and have been very fortunate, but they wanted to, stay apolitical on something. And I don't think we're talking politics. I think we're talking Constitution versus fascism right now.
Yeah, and just like dignity and decency. And
yeah, there you go. Absolutely. Yeah.
What you're right. What could have happened was seizing the moment to say, here's somebody who we are putting a rocket. We'll see how high the rocket goes, knowing where he stood already, right? So like everything that Brody King stood for pre last week, Tony Khan was aware of, right? So it's not as if the chants were surprising or unexpected. So as to why he didn't choose to capitalize on the public perception of it now, you're right, does feel like an intentionality and an avoidance. Maybe the thought of, well, everybody knows, so we don't need to like double down on it. But I doubt that's what it is. It's trying to skirt something. But why bother? It got such goodwill because I think people are wanting to see stuff on their TV take a stand. And if it's wrestling, my God, for once we're doing something right. Still muted.
too.
There you go.
I was trying to just think. It got so much attention last week too. It feels like people were tuning in expecting to see it get addressed. Like, it got so much media attention. So I think there's some disappointment there. Anyway, I mean, point made. I mean, I don't want to put extra pressure on AEW to be the lone people out there who then sabotage their future or anything like that. But I also don't want to just make it seem like it's the obvious only decision to make in the position that they're in. I know people personally who are making great sacrifices financially with their time and in risking their, not being thrown in a detention facility because they know how wrong, what's happening is. And I just want to speak out against the notion that, well, if you're rich and powerful and have a lot to lose, then you should not say anything and you should run from it. And this felt a little bit like running from it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Standard Deviation said, I thought it was a little disappointing they didn't replay the chants. Yeah. Let's see what Jake C says. I'm all for keeping politics out of wrestling, but AEW missed a gigantic opportunity here. One thing I'll say, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, I don't think we should call it politics anymore. Like, politics is tax rates. It's I mean, there's so many things that are political. This is like, so many people use, I don't want to get politics involved, as an excuse to look the other way when people are being abducted off of streets who are on a legal path to citizenship or are citizens. They're being thrown in detention facility. I'm in the middle of this in Minneapolis, so it speaks to me personally. Who are being thrown in a detention facility, kept in a cage. Kids are being yanked out of parents' arms. The conditions are horrible. The protesters are being sprayed with pepper spray after they're already tackled to the ground, merely for filming ICE agents, who, by the way, not all of them, but some of them are actually the worst of the worst. And with Trump, everything he says is a projection against his foes, is a projection of who he is or who he plans to be. And so, like, that's not politics. Like you said, Chris, it's about decency and just being decent humans. And this is indecent. And it's not politics. I mean, it's in the realm of politics, but it's not about, I don't want to make someone uncomfortable with my thoughts on abortion or whatever. I don't even know what normal political issues are anymore, because for 10 years we've been in this other realm. But I would just say words matter, and let's stop calling it politics. If you're going to opt out of standing up for people who are being abducted from their homes, who are on a legal path to citizenship or citizens, and really, the world was fine. Minnesota was fine before they came here. And now, in St. Paul today, look up the headlines. There was a guy fleeing ICE agents. I don't blame him. And there was a crash, and he was dragged, pulled out of the street with a sheet over his body. I mean, it's just horrible things are happening in my neighborhoods, places where I eat, places where I bike, places where I hung out with friends. The street I walked down on 9/11, looking at the sky with no airplanes, is where there's ICE agents doing terrible things. And so it's not politics, and we need to stop calling it that. We need to and I'm not trying to jump on you, Jake, because I know it's sort of the go-to term, but I think we should think about our words, because I think everyone thinks, you're excused to not talk politics, and I don't want Tony Khan to think, I don't get into politics. This is more than that, and it is time for decent people to get better informed if they don't understand truly what's happening, and speak up. I mean, take that stand. It's not, we'll get back to regular politics later, but what's going on in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities, and it's outside, and it's in the other suburbs and in the exurbs too. It's awful, and it's not the United States. It's not the United States. It's not legal, and it's awful. And there's nobody who I think would actually, if you know what's actually happening, and you saw what's happening in detention centers, and you understood the stories of these people being abducted out of their cars, out of their homes, I don't think any decent person would be like, well, I'm okay with it. I just think people are looking the other way willfully at this point. It's not the way to do it.
Well, art in wrestling is an art form, it should always be in the service of criticizing power. And now that gets stretched when you're talking about companies owned by billionaires, on TV networks owned by billionaires who are they're criticizing themselves. But broadly speaking, it should, at the very least, good art always has the possibility of criticizing power within it. And so if we take that seriously, and we take wrestling seriously as a form of art, then there is a unique way to tell a story about resistance, about overcoming pain and heartache, subverting expectations of how that storytelling can look in order to capitalize on the moment. And here's where my mind goes. When I was at the Yad Vashem Holocaust Museum in Israel, what moved me the most was an exhibit that was all about the plays and the music and the art that was done within the concentration camps. So art and in making meaning within suffering go together. And
Wow.
if wrestling can't do that, then man, we should just wrap it up. It's all about the struggle.
Yeah, that's great example and well put. Jake C, by the way, just said, no offense taken, Wade, I agree with you. And adds, they're only targeting Blue Cities too. This whole thing is a vendetta tour on top of Project 2025. I don't want to turn this into more than that in terms of a debate on the issues, but I said what I say, and I'm not shy about it. I mean, it's right here. I mean, the things that have hit me firsthand are such where I understand I can go about my normal life too and watch wrestling and do my job and go take my dog on a walk, whatever. I mean, I can have a normal day, but in the back of your mind, like I parked today at the pet shop and there's a car next to me. I'm like, that could be ICE agents and you're on edge. There's restaurants that, lock their doors and won't let you in unless they vet you first because they're scared you're an ICE agent. On and on. I mean, it affects you every single day. And on social media, just so many Minnesotans are telling stories about what it's like to live in a police state with this, rogue fascist masked men running around without being held accountable by this administration. So
it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Derek Mitchell says, when you have a moment like that and don't capitalize on it, it seems head scratching when your promotion needs as much national exposure as possible. I know we can frame it like it's a lost opportunity, and I get that. And you can argue it is or it isn't. Even if it isn't, I'm still saying take the stand. Like, I just think the stakes are high enough. I don't want to define it, because then someone could go, well, I think it's bad for business and here's why, and justify not doing it. I don't want to. It's a separate category that I don't think is as relevant as just do the right thing. And it doesn't mean use your platform in a way that your bosses will be angry about, but don't look like you're running from it either, Yeah.
That's right.
But yeah. All right. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I think especially in light of the way they're the number one promotion in the world, it has made a visible alliance with the administration. It's understandable that they would seize the opportunity to be once again painted as the counter promotion, right? As the counter program.
Yeah.
So even just on marketing alone, it's a missed opportunity. But more than that, and like you said, it's not lost yet. They could reclaim it, but let's hope they do.
Well, we got Saturday. Maybe Australia will come through and they won't be able to avoid it. I'm not saying it's an easy call. I'm just saying what side of the call I feel is the right side to take. I mean, I'm not naive to the risk, but I just don't want to be part of the chorus of going, oh, but Tony, people depend on Tony for jobs, and AEW could face, I don't know. I mean,
he could pay him out himself if they lost sponsorships.
Yeah. I just think we're at a point. I mean, whatever. All right. Standard Aviation says it stopped short of feeling like censorship, but I was waiting for a moment to feel good about the chance, and they didn't give me that moment. There's even a way to kind of cryptically just go. Last week was a newsworthy week for reasons that so many fans felt proud of, and all that. Although then if they book Brody King to lose, I don't know.
Right. Or they could plug his shirts. Why aren't they doing that? He released a new batch of T-shirts where the proceeds go to the Minneapolis Fund.
Yeah. I mean,
so there you go.
You coulda.
Strike. Yeah.
I mean, I'd stop worrying about offending people who are misinformed or like people who I don't relate to when it comes to humanity and decency. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't worry. I just don't think you need to worry about that. Derek Mitchell says, I thought the crowd might have started an F-Ice chant when Kenny mentioned Brody King being the most dangerous man in AEW, but it was crickets. So I guess that's a little bit on Ontario, California. Adam Kidd says, I just hope Brody stays relevant after Saturday. So let's talk about that for a second. Because, we're doing a Dynamite review, but part of this is also talking about what AEW is promoting. What do you expect to happen Saturday. I mean, I believe Brody King. I don't want to say Brody King should be protected because I don't want to be an advocate for like a
Right.
finish that quote protects him. But if MJF beats him clean and then Brody just goes back to the kind of mid-card or tag division, I think it's a lost opportunity. I think there's something there with Brody King, regardless of his stance on ice and being very open about it.
Spit shine his promos, and then he's right there, and I've seen noticeable improvement in his delivery in the past couple of weeks. So I'm with you. Missed opportunity if it's just sending him right back down, feeding him to MJF to send him back down. But I don't get the sense that that's what they're going to do. Whether or not they had plans to do anything other, with him before the ice chant incident. It feels like they're gearing for something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect him to win. I don't know it would be right if he did. I've seen lots of chatter online, people saying, yeah, put the belt on him, seize the opportunity. I just don't know if he's the guy right now.
Yeah, but I mean, was Thekla? I mean, I know the men's division is deeper and more well established. But I mean, if Brody King won and Andrade wins, then you get a heel face matchup. And MJF's in chase mode, and I mean, you can do a lot of things with that booking. It would be they're not. I mean, they're not scared to surprise people. Tony Khan's not scared to surprise people with finishes. So, yeah,
I could be down for that.
Yeah. If Brody gets pinned, one man's voices, maybe he gets pinned and then goes after Kyle Fletcher. And I'm not against that either. I mean, if you're sticking with MJF, and obviously MJF's strong champ, and I'm not like rooting for him to lose a title. I just don't want Brody to be lost in the mix afterwards. I think Brody is in the context of AEW's roster, a big man brawler who has a distinct following right now for a variety of reasons, not just his stance on ice. And so why not try to not just, sometimes Tony loses, gets to a certain point and then you don't see anybody or they get lost in some collision 8-man tag match next. So I hope that doesn't happen. So one man's voices, maybe he goes after Fletcher. That'd be good. Real Legend says, I think Brody loses and he turns on Bandito. You do not turn Brody King right now, Real Legend.
No way.
I mean, maybe you're making a prediction, not an endorsement, but I would not do that. Derek Mitchell says, I suspect MJF will win by hook or crook, and they'll cycle someone else in the world title picture, and Brody should be interacting with other top guys with Page, Swerve, and Omega. You can hurt Brody by having him just, move down the card. I think TNT is fine with Fletcher because it is crowded at the top right now. Back to previous discussion, just a couple of chat comments here. Standard deviations, do it for the right reasons, not for business reasons, in terms of leaning in or not looking like you're running from it. Fan Blast says, I'll leave it here. History is not kind to people who in times of crisis engage in both sidesism or stay silent. And Zach Barber said, as I said last week, it's not about right or left. It's about right and wrong. I don't think the lack of Brody was necessarily about that, though. I agree. I mean, I don't think I don't think Brody not being on the show is, we don't want him in front of a crowd. They'll chant that.
Right.
But I hope not. Sure hope not.
I didn't get
I'd
that
be surprised.
sense.
No.
Yeah. Back to the one comment about him being with Page and Swerve. Do you see it as sort of maybe being in there for a little bit and going back to Fletcher some? So as you said, it's crowded, but I think he does deserve to be up there if you're going to keep him in the main title picture. He's got to be interacting with them, especially since they're having such meaningful stories and feuds around the world title picture as a whole.
So frame the question again a little bit.
Yeah.
Reframe it for me. I want to address it.
It seems that all the feuds in the world title picture right now for the men are rich. They've got some real meat to them.
Mm-hmm.
So placing Brody King just smack into the middle of that would not feel appropriate. But you don't want to have him stay at the mid card, stay just at, with Fletcher right now and losing to him. So is it a thing of going back and forth between sort of upper mid card, top? That's my thought of how
I'm fine if all's well that ends well. Like if Brody gets loses and moves down the card for 2 months while they kind of work through everything that they have planned, and then they rev him up again. I mean, all's well that ends well. So let's revisit it in May and see what they do. I'm not going to judge only on what happens Saturday or in the next few weeks, but I would if I'm Tony Khan, realize I think we have something.
Yeah.
And Zach Barber says, I don't know if Brody going after Fletcher's smart. He needs a match he can win at Revolution in LA. Well, he could win, couldn't he, Zach? I mean, yeah. Pickens in the chat says, win or lose Saturday, Brody King needs to stay relevant through Dynamite in St. Paul. AEW could make a big Dynamite out of it. Wow. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What's the date on that St. Paul show? 25th of March. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So just a little over a month away.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's gonna be big. All right.
That would be cool.
Let's see. Jake C adds, MJF was probably the most memed person over the last week on the web in a good way. They missed out on a ton here. Saturday's probably their last chance to capitalize on the momentum. Because, I mean, MJF didn't even, refer to it in, a cryptic way or on his video package either. He'd be like, my face was all over the internet last week.
No.
And, but I don't think MJF personally wants to make it seem like he's pro-ice. I think they're nervous about turning it into that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's MJF's politics. I asked around last week, and it sounds like, unlike in WWE, there's no active wrestler that anybody could name who is openly pro-MAGA.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean everyone talks their politics, and definitely some people just don't. I get that, but there are people who are open, and Tony Khan's fine with it. He's never sent an edict down not who are, anti-MAGA. There's a couple producers who are very well known for being pro-Trump over the years. I don't know if they've hedged or changed in the atrocities of the last year in this country. But I know a lot of people have, so maybe they have too. There's an announcer who's been clear about not wanting to talk politics because he got, yelled at by people on social media for being pro-Trump, but that was years ago also. So maybe they just don't want to turn it into pro-ice, anti-ice or anything like that. It can get a little awkward, but we'll see. But it was such a big story last week. Yeah. All over social media, NBC News, web articles in places, the Hill, political bulletin, it's been around forever. Did a headline story on it too. So many people thought it was WWE, and so many people assumed, which is sort of maybe insulting, that pro wrestling fans are like UFC fans, or are perceived to be, which is a much more pro-MAGA organization or pro-MAGA part of society. So there were a lot of corrections there.
Yeah.
Zach says they fired Kevin Calloway. That's not who I'm talking about, by the way. But he was, I think he was too. Yeah.
Thinking about the smart play of not totally going out of your way to alienate a crowd, maybe, that's one strategy, but that's not what this is, right? Highlighting the way a fan base feels, highlighting the way performers feel about a specific issue organization, rather than showering an entire group with one superlative or something. So it's not being an us versus them. It still goes back to power and decency.
Yeah. Derek Mitchell said, be happy if Brody beats Fletcher because they should elevate Fletcher past winning the TNT title to something better. One note as far as the timing of MJF's promo, standard deviation said MJF's promo tonight was filmed after Dynamite last week, so it was before he knew about the reaction. This just seems like something you would update if that's. I didn't know either way. I mean, it's certainly likely that's the case, but you update it then. I mean, if they were if that was a preference they had to take advantage of it, I mean, you have plenty of time. I mean, you can get a 4K camera at Best Buy and film yourself, from around the world and have it in the hands of a video producer, and within an hour you can make the decision, get a 4K camera if you don't have one, and send it over the internet wherever you are in the world. I mean, so there's no stopping that from happening. So anyway, all right. Shifting gears to Tommaso Ciampa losing this TNT title. We've been talking about in relation to Brody King. What'd you make of Kyle Fletcher getting the belt back on the eve, so to speak, of going to Australia?
The match was incredible. The match was exhilarating. I frankly did not expect him to win, although I knew he couldn't lose. It felt like it was one of those matches where neither should really lose, and yet you knew somebody had to, unless they were going to do a wonky finish. But they haven't been really doing that much with these kind of matches lately. So I was thrilled, and I'm hoping though that Ciampa's still in the mix, right? I mean, they brought Briscoe back in, so it makes sense that there's a three-way going, a triangle. So I was excited by it. Yeah, what'd you think?
That was a really good match, and
Yeah.
I'm very fine with Fletcher winning. I think Ciampa gets something out of getting what is traditionally the second most prestigious title in AEW. I think that's all a blur now, but he benefits from, in a storyline sense and in a sort of meta sense, you send a signal to the fan base. This guy's not just going to be, Roderick Strong, the designated loser in tag matches, or whatever, just kind of a lower mid card guy. Roderick's always good for good matches. He's in great shape. I mean, it's not a dig, but you could have defined Ciampa down at that level and said, oh, he wasn't pushed in down to be at a top level, so we're not going to do that. They send a message to their fan base. He's championship material.
He looked awesome.
Yeah, he looks motivated, but you need Fletcher to beat him. I didn't want Ciampa to beat Fletcher clean. I mean, I would have been against that tonight. I think you want. I mean, I don't want to endorse a cheap cop out shenanigans finish, but I almost would in this case if Fletcher weren't going to regain the title. And there's a lot of things you can do where Fletcher just loses his focus or whatever, but he's his own worst enemy in some way. It doesn't have to be a distraction or interference, but I mean I like Fletcher with the TNT title. I think he's a big star. He had a showcase match with Ciampa, which was, I thought, really good. Like really, really good tonight.
Yeah.
And I think Ciampa comes out of it as someone you want to see their rematch, and there'll be a rematch, and Ciampa will be relevant. He might stay face, he might turn heel, depending on what he does next too. He has all those options. But yeah, it was a really good match. Standard Deviation adds, by the way, I think Fletcher will get booed in Dom like booed in Australia. He's the guy locals will love to hate. Zach Barber says, fantastic match. I'm surprised Fletcher won. And then my heart immediately sank as soon as I heard Briscoe's music. He's not a fan of Mark Briscoe. I'll get into that next. Derek said, Wade has recently stated there's no need to rush Fletcher, but I believe Fletcher should be prioritized as a future world champion sooner than later instead of still farting around with the TNT title. There's just too much going on in the world title scene right now. I think he'd be lost in the mix. So I'm fine with him winning the TNT title, Derek. Yeah.
It's like he feels a little too big for the TNT title, but not quite varsity enough yet for the world title picture.
Or if he, I mean, I think that's true, but I think primarily you've got Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, Andrade, Hangman, MJF, Brody King. How do you wedge Fletcher into that? I mean, you gotta just all's well that ends well. And if you keep someone, it's sort of a back burner on simmer. It's just don't bury him. Don't let people forget about him. But the time will come for him to be in that world title main event. But, right now, don't hold it. It's like, Rhea Ripley, I think they've gone too far with in WWE in that respect. But I get having Charlotte in a tag and Rhea in a tag and Becky in a secondary level, secondary title, because you don't want the same people on top all the time, even if they're the best. Just don't define someone down in the meantime, and also don't rush them. One man's voices, don't rush him either. Derek says, can someone clarify the hierarchy of Continental, International, National, and TNT? Isn't there another one in there somewhere too? Maybe not. Maybe that covers it. No, I can't. See. Can you, Chris?
Yeah. So in my mind, it would go World, which is not up there, TNT. Continental and International are sort of on the same level with different rule set.
Yeah.
The national title is like its own little universe that feels disconnected from the other title pictures. It has no legacy, lineage, purpose, and so far it's just a couple dudes fighting. Some pretty good matches for it. Other than that, it's meaningless. Yeah.
They talked about the national title being something where, you defended in the territories, and they did some callback to the 80s and all that, but it was not explained well. I don't think it's been followed up on. And and then
the first defense was Ring of Honor, so I guess that's what they considered a territory defense, right? It was Final Battle. That was his first defense.
So Okada's the international champ, Ricochet's the national champ, Fletcher's now the TNT champ, Moxley's a continental champ, and MJF the AEW champ, but then you have the ROH titles too that are part of the ecosystem that get added to it. Let's see. I was going to add a comment here. Oh, just standard deviation going kind of what I said first. The hierarchy is the AEW world title comes first, and then everything else is a distant blur. And he says they need to have different rules to justify it. Otherwise, what are you the best of? And that's the thing. I mean, if you have distinct rules, like ROH has a pure title, and then there's a TV title that gets defended on TV, it's like the working, the hardworking title, the workman's title, where you got to defend it twice a month or you lose it, whatever. Differentiate it. I'd like even more differentiation with belts to say that if you have held the world title or challenged for the world title in the last 12 months, you're ineligible to challenge or hold a secondary title. And so it becomes, by definition, with that structure, a title that people who aspire to be at the world title level have to conquer before they get to the world title level, or people who have been knocked down a peg. And it's sort of like the NBA play-in. You got to play in to get into the playoffs. So then you go down a notch because you have to wait, but it's your way to work your way back. Now, does that tie a Booker's hands a little bit? Sure. I mean, but what the heck? Work around it. Plan ahead.
Yeah, but you should probably have your hands tied a little bit if you're going to insert all these titles and make them feel superfluous, right?
Well, I'm not excuse making at all. I mean, I think it's a ridiculous number of titles, even if you define them individually. Even if you define them individually, effectively, and concretely, it's still too many titles.
Too many.
Yeah. All right. So, what was I going to add about? I thought I was going to add something else on Brody and Fletcher, but it's not coming to mind. No big deal. So let's talk about the opening segment with Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland specifically. This was, we could have led with this. It felt a little bit like AEW's answer to CM Punk and Roman Reigns.
Yeah, it did.
We've got Kenny Omega, our legacy guy, Swerve acknowledging that. Swerve saying, I'm a new generation guy. I mean, it's the parallels aren't there with Punk and Reigns personality-wise, but it was like, this is epic. Like, Kenny is back. And Swerve's acknowledging, you were the guy 5 years ago who was a wrestling god, but then you've been in Tokyo and in a hospital bed or suspended, and I've been making a name for myself. And now you got to go through me. I don't want to say I'm a wrestling god, but, and then the fans chant Swerve's house. I thought this was, top 3 or 4 Kenny performance on the mic. And I thought Swerve, who, by the way, don't forget, when Swerve first started getting a push, the feeling was, he kind of loses his train of thought. He has a better ring entrance than he does holding court on the microphone for a long segment. He's grown into this top tier role. I mean, there's nobody questioning his mic work at this point.
Yeah.
And he brought out, it's weird seeing Kenny try to be serious. Like, it's like, an 8-year-old wearing a suit. You're like, wait, that doesn't look right. But you know what? I thought Swerve set it up in a way that he had to be serious. Swerve was calling into question whether he is. Now, they're only 7 years apart. I don't know if they're technically of a different generation, but I buy it in the sense that Omega was a top star for many years before Swerve was.
Yeah.
And Swerve came on as a new generation guy, even though they're a little closer in age than I think storyline portrays them. Not a big deal. So Chris, expand on your thoughts on that.
It was certainly Kenny Omega's best promo since I've been regularly watching AEW, right? As you just put up, Standard Deviation said, the lack of the catchphrase at the end made it feel immediate and less performative. And it made the confrontation and the step up with Swerve feel less like a theatrical bit. Swerve's the religious church stuff I actually found really interesting. And because it had a different feel and a different flavor, right? Playing on Kenny as the wrestling god. And it was this sort of like the humble, aged god who doesn't want to bask in the glory everybody wants to put on them. Like, Kenny is struggling to figure out, who am I? Am I this immortal? Or like, can I still do it in my, it's ripe for some really mythological storytelling. God, I loved it.
Some other comments in the chat. San Francisco Niners fan says, nice to see Kenny dress up. Zach Barber said, in response to no catchphrase, the catchphrase would have been forced if he used it tonight, for sure. But I'm relieved when you don't get it. Anyway, you want to look like you're not, wearing the letter jacket from high school. Like, let's move on, to other things. Real Legend says, yeah, you can't do a catchphrase if you start fighting in the end, LOL. But it also shows it can be done, and don't use it as a crutch or look like you're living in the past to this sort of subgroup that, isn't your total audience. It's not their catchphrase. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's just, I mean, right. I would argue against it. MJF didn't want people chanting Y2J when he got to AEW for a reason. It's like you want to look like you're moving forward, not living in the past. I just think that's where I would lean on a lot of things. I don't think with Vince McMahon gone, I don't think Randy Orton should call himself, a sports entertainer anymore. I think he should say I'm a pro wrestler and drop, and change the catchphrase. I just like updating that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
Zach Barber goes, one of the best promos Kenny has cut. And Zach Barber said, Swerve was fine, but his cadence continues to be weird. What do you think about that, Chris?
I don't think it's weird. To me, I wouldn't call it weird. I would say that it is not the expected cadence from somebody who also has really good hip hop albums. I'll say it that way. That there's a staccato-ness to it when he talks that doesn't have like a flow. But I think that's intentional. I wouldn't call it weird.
Yeah. Ducky D says, I don't think it was either guy's best performance on the mic, but I don't think it hurts the story much at all. Very excited about this rivalry. The God through line was kind of forced and awkward. Not a big deal. Yeah, I know you could disagree too. I disagree too, Chris. I think it worked. Real Legend said Swerve's cadence fits more a heel than a baby face. Jericho didn't want the crowd chanting "We the People" toward Jake Hager. True, but I also, Jericho refreshes his gimmick, every few years, and I know there's a time where he wanted other chants to be dropped, but yeah, the "We the People" thing was the one most clear that he spoke out against. And so, one man's voice says both men aren't great talkers, but you could see how much they're trying to make this program work. So stars, ! And some of it is reps, some of it is put someone in a situation to be serious. One thing I would take out, it's probably too late to make the argument, is just referencing the EVP stuff. I'd like to see them just kind of fade that out of canon. I don't think it helps. No. It does, just because it's true doesn't mean you have to draw attention to it. It never made sense to have an active wrestler have executive power. It was, you can do it in real life. I just would have never brought it up on TV. And I don't think it was a good idea. And just because you've done it before doesn't mean you have to keep doing it.
Yeah. I didn't dig it. And as someone who wasn't here for the beginning of AEW, it's sort of like, what does it really mean anymore to be an EVP of this company? And wasn't there some sort of like trading of EVP powers from Swerve and Ospreay having a match with the Young Bucks or something? God,
don't make my head hurt. There's something like that.
Yeah. So that was gone, but
All right. So we had number one contendership tag team title match. Young Bucks retasselfied the Rascals and the return of Private Party. Number one contendership for AEW tag team titles. It was good to see Private Party back. How'd you think they all looked in the ring? It was obviously, with those three teams, a spot fest of spot fests.
I thought as many spots as they put in there to have as few botches was incredible. That was the miracle, right? Yeah, it was really fun. I would not have wanted Private Party to lose, I think, especially having been gone for a year to debut, but I guess not every re-debut can be a win. I know there's a lot of complaints about the Young Bucks. I still find them really entertaining to watch and visually interesting. So I get why they're sticking around, if it's not because they're EVPs.
Yeah. What do you think of the Bucks kind of returning to their roots, so to speak? Is it fine? I think it's fine.
It's more fun to me than the suit and the Kangol hat thing that they had going on. Like that felt like a pastiche of a caricature, right? This is what we've known them for, what they're known for. It is fun. It's over the top, but they move in a way that allows for it to be authentic.
What do you think of the FTR angle afterwards? FTR going hardcore heel on them. I think they got what they had coming when the Bucks super kicked them after their talking. I thought Stokely Hathaway was good in his role. I'm glad they didn't kick him. In the end, they just threatened it, made him scared, might have peed his pants a little, who knows? But then they left and humiliated him. He was scared but unharmed.
Like they were landed hard on FTR. I thought there were some stiff kicks.
Yeah. I thought Dax saying you guys had to start your own company to be successful. It goes a little against what I said about not bringing up EVP stuff. But if you're going to, FTR going, we were great everywhere we went. And I mean, they didn't love how, Vince McMahon booked them, but, in NXT. And so for them to bring up, you guys had to start your own company and basically, and I think that's why, Cody didn't want to book himself as champ and you didn't start with Kenny as champ and you don't want it to make it seem like, oh, now we're going to be the guys that we rallied against, the guys with power who use it to push ourselves. That said, there are examples of where it shouldn't have been done. I think Jeff Jarrett overpushed himself. I think he would have been valuable in a second or third babyface spot instead of perpetually at the top of TNA so much. And then, there's a whole X division as sort of this sideshow to the Jeff Jarrett world. I think they would have been more successful had they gone a different direction. But sometimes you are the best star, you're the best choice. So, and the Bucks are in great shape. People want a private party to really get in good shape and show off what they could do. And so that all works. And then, FTR are a good contrast to the Bucks. And as Excalibur said, they're generational rivals. So when they circle back to it, I don't have a problem.
FTR was one of the first groups that I found myself really loving when I started watching AEW. The music, the vibe, the attitude. I mean, they feel taken out of the 70s, 80s kind of that heel model in a way that the Outrunners are a caricature of, right? Like FTR, they're real in that sense. What I liked about the whole started your own promotion bit was how instantly it made FTR seem like true living legends. We have been champions every single place we've gone, and you couldn't even get over anywhere else. I thought that segment was great.
Zach Barber says Private Party being the mystery team was a letdown. Another Bucks FTR match wasn't initially exciting, but the match will deliver because it always does. I mean, it does, I mean, they're contrasting styles. They work well together. That works. I wish there's more of an explanation for Private Party where they've been. What's will we get that next week? Will there be an explanation? Here's why they were gone for over a year. It's whatever the timeline was. It's weird.
I think they said it was a full year. Nyla Rose the same way. Is there going to be a way to feature folks who have just been benched?
That's why I like the Will Ospreay videos, because it's like, hey, this guy's still here. Like he's still. That was well done. I mean, he seemed like he grew up a bit. Like it's a new stage of life for him, and the way he talked about, I'm happy I can wrestle again, going through neck surgery. He just looked like a man, and looked like a 30-something-year-old man who's grown out of being the young kid wrestler. Real Legend says Young Bucks against Swerve and Ospreay last year at All in Texas. The Bucks lost, so they lost the EVP titles. So that's technically, but they did start a company. They helped start a company, as FTR said, to become stars. So you had that aspect of it. Okay, so we also had the follow-up, such as it was, of the big Darby angle last week. Again, I think
your favorite.
I mean, I think it's a little ridiculous to have what happened happen,
right? And
the follow-up is one of them gets to wrestle on this week's show.
They kidnapped a man and attempted to murder him.
I mean, you could. This thing, they may have murdered him. It may not have been intentional, but there could have been manslaughter aspects to it. I'm not going to get too into, but I don't think that's required for this to be. I don't think you need to have intent to murder someone to maybe lose the category of, hey, we've got a Wednesday Dynamite to fill. Let's book Clark Connors in a tag match with someone he's never teamed with before. Like Clark, I mean, shouldn't Tony Khan perhaps care enough about that to not reward Connors with a match this week? Shouldn't abducting someone to the desert, dragging them by a truck and a body bag and leaving them in the desert call for perhaps being fired or arrested? Like maybe arrested. I mean, that is a crime. It's not within the realm of pro wrestling. You want to throw someone into a crate backstage? That's the pro wrestling world. That's the realm. We've come to expect that. That's a rules of engagement. We accept it. If you go too far in certain ways, you get suspended. But he was just a regular employee working a match. I mean, what's the point of doing the angle if you're not going to own the gravity of it in the storyline? And that's my issue. I'm not offended by an angle that takes place outside of the ring, but I want the announcers to
Mhm.
frame it as big of a deal as, to me, it should come across as.
Yeah.
And so it just, but they treated an out of the ordinary, extraordinarily violent angle out in the real world as just another angle for Darby to get revenge by yanking the guy over the barricade. So I thought it was bad follow-up. I mean, I don't know if there's good follow-up if you're not willing to suspend them. But you could have done a story where, Tony suspended them after what happened, and they're going, there's going to be an evaluation. And I don't think you needed Clark Connors on tonight's show. And you can then have a storyline reason where Darby goes, Tony Khan, don't you dare keep them suspended. I mean, it's super simple, super basic one-on-one stuff that's been done for decades before kind of the modern era. Just have the babyface go, I want him, Tony, to unsuspend him. I'm not pressing charges. I've gotten down to dirty before. I'm not, I want to get him in the ring. I mean, and then Excalibur announces Tony Khan has reluctantly complied with Darby's wishes. He respects Darby and he understands whatever. I mean, there's just a way to frame it where it makes sense, and they don't bother. So why do it if you're not going to take advantage of the context?
I mean, it's just seems to further the story of the War Dogs being these sort of brutal psychopaths who are going to do whatever they want whenever they want with no consequence. But you're exactly right. They enter the orbit, and the boss, the billionaire boss, gives them more money, right? Yeah, to work. Yeah. You're muted there, Wade.
Shoot, I'm not noticing the flash as I normally do. Derek Mitchell says, why would Clark Connors be allowed to wrestle this week with no repercussions being a part of the Darby abduction last week? There's literally no repercussions in AEW: arson, suffocation, hanging, electrocution, and kidnapping. Yes, exactly. Zach Barber goes, as I predicted, there was no punishment. That's my major problem. And that was my major problem too. I mean, I'm less willing to go the direction that they did, but as Zach Barber has pointed out, they explained, they went in the production truck. I think they should have done a better job explaining they were filming Darby for a video. That's why they were filming them outside on the skateboard. Explain the context, make it seem like it's plausible to happen in their world, but it really is, the tone of the announcers and the follow-up that just wasn't there. And that's frustrating.
In my mind, you can halfway excuse the way they treat Darby, but they attacked the video dude in the truck, right? That's the one where you can't really snake your way out of that one.
Yeah. Zach wants to know, when was electrocution? Was there electrocution? I know Shane McMahon faced that. But that was elocution? Actually, elocution. What was elocution? Derek, clarify. We need to clarify. I just read it without thinking. Standard Aviation adds, I think Darby's creativity is best utilized by imposing more restrictions on the extremity of his ideas. Find a way to be creative with a less absurd premise. Yeah. I mean, as I say, you don't want to make it seem like a fourth grader is booking your show, because wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And you got to restrain yourself sometimes from the cool idea a fourth grader has. And it's like, you gotta rein that in sometimes and go, we can make this work if we frame it differently. Derek Mitchell, going back to Private Party, just says, Tony Schiavone said Mark Quinn looks like he built some muscle, but doesn't look like he uses your off wisely. I missed that. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, did they wrestle anywhere on indies or anything?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Not that landed on my radar that I recall, at least. Standard Aviation says John Moxley changing topic mid-sentence when asked about Darby was telling, because he was on commentary, and he did. There was a point where he thought he made reference to him, but maybe it was in the process of avoiding anything too specific. But anyway, yeah. I mean, it's awkward. It was going to be awkward,
right?
Yeah. I don't know what else I can do. Let's see. What else have we, if anything, not talked about? We had the tag match. Pac, Moxley, Claudio against Takeshita, Mark Davis, and Josh Alexander. What'd you think? What stood out to you there?
I really liked that match. It was hard hitting. It seems to me that they are going to turn the whole faction of the Death Riders into faces. Like, how can you keep pitting them against the big bads of AEW at the present moment if you're not trying to get face energy for the whole faction? And I'm kind of interested in it. I really like the Death Riders. I like the vibe. Is there work to be done on them? Yeah, but there's a lot there that I think could be done really well as violent forces of good, right? Chaotic good.
What about being heels and faces in back-to-back segments? As Real Legend points out, the Death Riders are faces and heels in back-to-back segments. LOL. They are just, I think they would just say we're on an island unto ourselves. We're neither heel nor face. I think that's awkward. But awkward is not a disqualifier. What I think is more of a disqualifier is it's not fair to the baby faces or the heels they face to have fans, especially for if they face baby faces, be against popular tweeners, for lack of a better term. I hate that term but it's not fair to your opponents. I mean, it just and frankly, people kind of form opinions on people, good or bad, pro or con. And they're putting them in a position to not be able to do that. So you end up kind of stepping back and saying, I'm not going to care about all that. We're in a different world. And it's like you have to justify that it's worth it then to be kind of in this special sphere that runs counter to a formula that I think the way AEW promotes is preeminent. It's everywhere else. So how do you tell a story so different than that without just getting in the way and going, well, we're cool and we're tough? I don't know. I just, I don't think you end up with strong emotions, as strong of emotions as you can when you're, and Chris, sounds like you would endorse them being cool baby faces fighting for good, but willing to go places to get it to where they can meet the heels in the depths of wherever heels go.
Yeah. Maybe to speak in Dungeons and Dragons terms, if I could be yet another dorky level, would be chaotic neutral. The characters who aren't good or evil, they do what they feel is right. But I would phrase them as sort of the amoral group who tends to fall on the side of good, right? So you have not quite an anti-hero, but you tell a story with a group of people who were breaking bad, but who have found a way to fight for something bigger than themselves, right? Against the world is this ethos that they're coming up with. So that's what it feels like they're going for me.
Dungeons and Dragons doesn't have a live crowd who buy tickets to either root for you to win a fight or root against you to win a fight. I don't say that to like just try to undercut your argument, because I think what you're saying might be a valid. Not necessarily. I don't know that Moxley's a D&D guy thinking, oh, I'm gonna, I know what Chris is talking about. He's like, my eyes are glazed over. But that the spirit of what you're saying might apply.
Sure.
But those things, people compare it, Prestige TV has these baby faces who aren't, this and that, and what. It's pro wrestling. Like, let's remember what this is. You're trying to sell tickets and you're trying to get a crowd reaction. And you want people to cheer a kick out if the baby face is on their back and boo a kick out if the heel's on their back. And when you lose sight of that, you start trying to be something that pro wrestling just ought not be. I mean, just don't. And like I said, my argument isn't that it's awkward. My argument is it's not fair to the opponents if you're a baby face in one segment and a heel in the next. And then when you're a heel, you're facing baby faces with a fan base that likes you, and it undercuts just the.
Right. And
I just think it should be infrequent. And even with Kenny and Swerve, like I said last week, they were just petulant children. And I wish I brought it up when we were talking about it in the main part of Kenny and Swerve. I thought Kenny should have said, Swerve, by the way, I got to say something. I'm man enough to apologize. You weren't there to cost me a match. You were there to try to keep the playing field even when you yanked the screwdriver away. And I didn't see that. And I yelled at you last week and I was out of line. I mean, to me, that's the honorable thing to do. And instead, Kenny said, you tried to cost me a match last week. He had all week to realize that is not what happened. And they just went with it. That's sloppy. I mean, really, I wish I would have led with that, because that actually kind of was like, man, these two baby faces are arguing, and I was against it last week because they just looked. I mean, I know, there's brawls in the NBA, in the middle of a game, pull apart brawl, and you cheer for your home guy and you boo the away guy and all that. But it's actual two opponents who get on each other's nerves because it's a physical game. What happened last week was a misunderstanding from Kenny making an assumption and then Swerve standing up for himself, and it escalated. And I just want Swerve to have said last week, I took a screwdriver away from the heels. I wasn't trying to sabotage a match. Like, just say that instead of escalating into a fight. I think you want, as a fan, to think babyfaces can work things out when someone has a misunderstanding and it's easily resolved. Kenny had a whole week to figure it out, and he doubled down. So, I mean, to me, that's, you're not thinking, I don't think they would defend that. I would think they would say, oh, we didn't think that hard about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. And maybe the thought is we don't need to think that hard about it. But when you have clips that replay all over social media, when you have shows like this that where you do have dissections, and when you're going to put your product out there, you should be willing to be critiqued by the people who, as you say, are paying money to see it. So yeah, paying attention to those little things, which wouldn't take much to remind somebody of. I don't think it's being overly critical.
Yeah. Standard Deviation said, I think they know Swerve is turning heel, so they want Kenny to come across as smart. What you do is you have Kenny go, Swerve, I blew my top last week. I lost a match. I wasn't thinking clearly. I jumped to a conclusion I shouldn't have. I apologize. You got Kenny, be the man, be the stand-up guy that you want everybody in your life to be. If there's a misunderstanding over something, you want them to find out the facts and apologize. That's just being a good human. And Swerve, if the idea is to turn him heel, Swerve can go, not sure I can forgive you for that, Kenny. You know, like, be a jerk about it. If that's the direction they're going with Swerve, if it is, then that can be planting a seed. Kenny stood up and said, I mean, one of the best traits of a human is admit you're wrong. Like, you should look for opportunities in your life to go to people and admit you're wrong. I mean, it's just, you score so many points with people when you do that. When you go, yep, I was wrong. And this was a case for Kenny to do that. And then Swerve could be a bad sport about it. And now you've planted a seed for something, and what happened last week would have served a purpose. And they just whiffed on it. They whiffed. Standard Deviation said Swerve might have intended to screw Kenny. How is there evidence of that? I don't believe that's how it played out last week. There's no evidence of that. Kenny should admit it. And, and what would his motivation be to do that? That would make Kenny think that was the case anyway.
Right.
Derek says Kenny doesn't even watch AEW clips on YouTube on their AEW site. Come on, Kenny. Exactly.
Man, if he did, everything would have been cleared up before their conversation, right? Then they could have schemed together on how to take on the Death Raiders and the Don Callis family.
Yeah. Standard says because he was arguing with the ref, but he's arguing with the ref after doing a good deed, and the ref was yelling at him for being on the ring apron. But if I don't think arguing with the ref, and I'd have to if I review the footage live, I'd augment slightly this, but if my memory's right, arguing with the ref was a result of the ref being mad at him for the good deed that the ref didn't see him do. Right. So if Swerve wanted to sabotage Kenny, he just wouldn't have done anything, and then Kenny would have been hit by a screwdriver. Right. But by taking the screwdriver away, yes, the ref argued with him, but that wasn't a planned sabotage unless you think he's playing 3D chess going, well, if I do something that if I take away an advantage the heels have, I can hope that a sequence of events that isn't entirely predictable happens that will lead to a disadvantage. That's
wildly convoluted if that was the case.
Yeah. Ducky D goes, it seems like in storyline, these guys have been eyeing each other for a while and are just looking for a reason to pick a fight with each other, legitimate or not. Standard says, yes, Swerve prevented interference, but then stood there distracting the ref while Andrade cheated. Well, he's arguing with the ref. And again, you have to think he decided not to do the obvious thing, which is stay out of it. And he decided, I'm going to take away an advantage to give a lesser advantage. I don't, that's that's real convoluted. Nice try. I mean, sure. Yeah. I mean, maybe I will admit I'm wrong. And I have, if I missed something in a storyline, and especially if everyone else got it and I didn't, I mean, that can happen. But I think we're stretching it to try to to justify it. And that's, yeah. All right. Zach Barber says tweeners only really work if you're consistent face this month and then maybe a consistent heel next month. Having it all mixed up every show is just confusing. Standard Deviation says absolutely the inherent difference between pro wrestling and prestige TV is a live weekly crowd influencing how the home viewer feels about these characters. Plus the difference is in prestige TV, you're in complicated real world situations. Yeah. And it's your personal life, it's your professional life, it's an office, you're lawyers, you're in industry, you're in the finance world, in the pit, you're in you're setting up matches to win titles. It's a fight.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's an environment that just calls for home team, away team dynamics. trying to be something else. It's like, well, go do something else, but stay out of pro wrestling if you don't want to just tell good, logical storylines in pro wrestling that drive strong emotional reactions from fans, pro and con. That's a peak fan experience. Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns, Montreal. Like that's a pinnacle. And just build almost everything around that. You can do a Punk Roman, two legends didn't cross paths in they kind of missed each other for the most part, and now they're coming to a head. I love that. That's the exception that sort of proves the rule. There's a special occasion to do it, but don't make it something you do regularly.
Right.
Ducky D says Pac should never be the good guy, nor should Marina Shafir or Wheeler Yuta. I'd argue this fence straddling is much better than making them a babyface group. I don't know how you feel about that, Chris. I mean, like, then break up the group or make them heels.
Yeah. So I'm not even saying that they should ride the fence. They should just do their own thing and be seen as a force unto themselves rather than the sort of back and forth, which the way that the structure of the show has set up lately is will they, won't they, will they, won't they, right?
Yeah.
But you can't sustain that very long if you don't have other characters engaging in similar kind of personal dynamics. And as you just pointed out, like really what we're going back to is good versus evil, home team, away team, winners, losers. So they've got to make some clear decision of what they want us, how they want us to relate to the Death Riders moving forward.
It's dangerous to prescribe motivation for what's done, but part of me thinks the Death Riders are what they are because it's a group of guys who really like to hang out with each other. They don't like the other politics. They don't want to be part of other cliques and groups, and they just want to do their own thing on their island. And what they have, though, is Jon Moxley, who's better off as a babyface, Marina Shafir, who's better off as a heel, Wheeler Yuta, who gets some strong anti chants from the crowd. Danny Garcia is sort of a follower. He's just you can cheer for him, I guess, one week and one season and boom the next season. But and Claudio is highly respected. He's more pliable. But I don't know. I mean, like, I don't think it's a master plan. I think their philosophy is a result of just wanting to do their own thing and collect their paycheck. And Moxley gets to have brawls, and Claudio gets to do Claudio matches, and Yuta gets to be yelled at, and jeered by fans, and Marina gets to be a badass who follows Moxley around. I don't think they're thinking beyond, we just want to do our thing. And then I think there's, if you're Tony Khan, I think you command a better structure to what they're doing so that you get that peak fan experience for some expensive talent there, especially Moxley.
Yeah. And I think that's what I'm getting at, is to have definition to their character and their story doesn't necessarily have to be all black, all white, or bad nuance, but just give us something that feels like a trajectory that has additions to who they are rather than the same types of just fighters week after week, right?
The banned term on this show is shades of gray, except when I decide to bring it up. When in a very specific context, which is here. Shades of gray should exist within a character who is a clear-cut babyface feuding with heels, or a clear top-tier star, a Roman Reigns, PM Punk, Kenny and Swerve, in a context against another babyface where it's called for. It makes sense. It adds some layering, some depth, some nuance to the character. Shades of gray can also exist in a heel who maybe is questioning their approach or is thinking about their legacy and maybe questioning, as a result, their actions, or they're starting to see a friend that they're aligned with taking things too far. And they're like, I never meant for that to happen. That's a shades of gray within a heel character that can lead to them turning babyface. Shades of gray is not an excuse for ambiguity for someone to just be in the muddy middle ground where you don't really have a strong feeling about who they are. And then you slap the shades of gray label on it to act like they're all sophisticated and forward thinking. When in reality, you're just adding a fifth leg to a chair that doesn't need it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy. I'm gonna steal that.
Fair, do it. Derek with a super chat. Thank you, Derek. Always appreciate super chats. He says, I sent a super chat after the February 4th SmackDown post show about the lack of awareness for Black History. Last week's Collision, Tony Schiavone said AEW is observing Black History Month all year long. So kudos to them. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I think that's good. There's something about saying we're going to do a little bit extra than normal once a month to really draw attention to something that has the history that it has, where, I don't think wrestling companies are obligated. I mean, it's not like I'm going to hold it against them not doing it. I'm Derek, not going to say it's equally admirable. I think you should do the right thing year round. But if you're going to, I don't think the excuse to not acknowledge Black History Month is we treat it as a super special year. You can't. Like, that's why we don't have birthdays every day. Like, I'm 24 hours older. I'm 24 hours older. You want some things to really stand out as special. And so the argument, again, it's not a huge deal, but my argument for acknowledging Black History Month is it's a way to say we're going to give extra attention to something that would just kind of blend into the woodwork if we did it year round. And then it just doesn't really feel like it stands out. It's like travelers eat out all the time. It doesn't feel special. But if you eat at home all the time and you go out once every week or two, it feels special. Yeah. It stands out. So, but I mean, it's nice in a sense, Derek, what you're saying is they acknowledged it and just says, we're proud of our attention to this year round. So again, it's not a negative what they said, and you're congratulating them for it. So kudos to them. But I'm sort of going, there is something about adding a little bit of extra attention for 1 month to a cause. So
yeah. Last year in June, they did fail to acknowledge Juneteenth when even TNA did. So there's a pattern at play.
Yep.
It feels like.
Yep. Let's see. Zach Barber goes, Black History Month was always Vince McMahon's excuse to pretend like he ever read one of MLK's speeches. Yeah, Martin Luther King Day was his way to just go, all that other stuff I do all under 364 days a year doesn't matter because, look, I'm playing a video.
Right.
You got to live it.
His dream's mine, too.
Yeah. It's the box of chocolates on Valentine's Day to the partner that you abuse and gaslight all year round. But hey, took you out, gave you chocolates. So
that's right.
It's all even. Yes. Let's see. Ducky D says, my main point is each individual in the Death Riders are framed in the best way for their character, and the fans are still responding to them appropriately as a group. This is unconventional, but it's working. I don't think they're a deficit, but to the product, but I don't know, it's murky. It's murky.
It seems like people, well, I mean, the pops that they're getting are better than they did a year ago, right? I mean, the responses, certainly there's been an intentional turning, but I'm not seeing the same kind of hatred online and in some of the other spaces that I was before.
Mm-hmm.
So something's working.
Yep. Back to another topic. Ducky D goes, it makes no sense. It makes sense that Kenny and Swerve would make no effort to see anything from the other's point of view. Well, then, Swerve should counter it and go, I don't try to sabotage you. I was trying to help you. You're unappreciated. I mean, like, just stand up for yourself. I mean, but I disagree. This was an opportunity for Kenny to go, it's so counter to pro wrestling. Like, the default sort of hack booking position is, arguing is good. Like, yelling is good. Saying bitch is good. Dragging someone to the desert is good. Throwing a fireball is good. It's about the yelling and all that. It's like, sometimes it's just, you want to set the baseline. Like Hangman Page tonight. He set a baseline promo. He wasn't trying to stomp testicles to keep MJF from ever having kids again. He wasn't going over the top in this gratuitous hack way that just is so out of character with who people. Yes, he's a hothead, but you lose. How does he ever express anger that feels kind of like Black History Month? How does anything ever feel special if it's always the same intensity of 12? This week was great. That's how Hangman should talk about what he's involved in now. It shouldn't be, I'm going to find a creative way to torture you and kill you. And so, like, that worked, and you can apply that to other aspects of the product.
Yeah, I think there's having him be able to modulate his performance.
Yeah,
Hangman especially, just will further solidify how good he can be when he's able to turn that explosivity on. So yeah, I'd agree with that totally.
We'll just wrap up here with a couple comments in the chat. Tremendous show tonight. AEW continues to be must-see TV. GWF ESPN said, I thought it was a great show too. A big picture, Chris, we get into specific matches, segments, and angles and all that, but overall as a show, what do you think?
I had a great time with the show tonight.
Yep.
It does feel like 2026 is a creative high point for AEW, that they're climbing in the right ways. Still stuff to work on, but I thought it was a great show. They have had a string of great shows. Even Collision has had necessary viewing on it. So I had a blast.
Yeah. The Collision program has felt more relevant lately, and that's good, and I hope they keep it up. It might take a while for it to land as you know. I don't know if you want to make it a must-see show, but you want to make it a show where I'm glad I made time for it, and then you can recap things, and you still ought to recap things on Dynamite until the viewership catches up, if it ever does. One other note, more than a nitpick, but the strap match, people are used to strap match being you drag your opponent from one turnbuckle to the next, and that is not what happened here. Derek Mitchell said, I thought the rules of a strap match where a wrestler wins by touching all 4 turnbuckles in succession. How do you feel about that? Should they have laid that out a little bit more? It's just a weapon.
I always thought that you would have to designate it as a 4 corners strap match in order for it to be that. So I didn't expect a 4 corners match. I expected something like it felt like this was their attempt at a dog collar match, but they weren't ready to have a woman's dog collar match like that yet, right? In that same sense. So, yeah.
Standard Aviation said, the episode of Jason Paul, the Wade Keller flagship from yesterday, it was excellent. Everyone should listen to it if they haven't already. Search Wade Keller on your podcast app to subscribe to that. Chris, is there anything else you want to bring up from tonight's episode?
No, nothing jumped out to my mind. I'll say it'll be interesting to see what happens when Mercedes comes back, given this new title picture. I don't know how long she's going to be gone. That would certainly be an interesting dynamic, Thekla and Mercedes.
Yep. I will. Ducky D, excuse me. Don't know what the second D stands for. Says, I don't want to be presumptuous. Ducky D128 says, Hangman's lack of emotional maturity, especially in the moment, is a purposeful character flaw. Swerve's tendency to lean into his opponent's negative perception of him is a purposeful character flaw. I think that's, a fair argument to make. It might be charitable to say that it's intentional, but I think you could say that it does play into it. I would say the downside of Hangman yelling violent imagery indiscriminately, no matter what the context of his feud is cannot be made up for by framing it as a character flaw. But I'd say nice try. And if you're right, I would still vote against it because I think it's unbecoming. And I think you want wrestlers yelling about extreme violence to be appropriate to the intensity of the feud. And I would save it for that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
Yeah. All right, cool. Chris, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Always fun having me on. Yep. I encourage people to become a VIP member. There's multiple ways to do it. If you're a fan of the Patreon ecosystem, you're already on it. You can unlock our VIP membership there with a 7-day free trial. Just go to patreon.com and search PWTorchvip, or go to patreon.com/PWTorchvip. Activate a 7-day free trial. You can also find that 7-day free trial through Spotify by searching PWTorchvip. And that'll get you commercial-free versions of our free shows like this one, and then also our VIP exclusive shows as part of the mix. You can also get a full VIP membership, unlocking access to our archives, our ad-free website, our podcast RSS feed that's compatible with the Apple Podcast native app on your iPhone, thus CarPlay, but any other iOS app also, and Android iOS apps. No password or advanced settings needed, which is pretty cool. We got a slick setup. Just go to pwtorch.com/govip. Get the details and sign up. You can customize your podcast feed for individual shows or clusters of shows with specific themes. You get an ad-free website, the Wade Keller News Bulletins, the Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter, other VIP exclusives, and on-demand access to nearly 4 decades of insider wrestling coverage. Check it out. You will not regret it, and you'll be supporting a genuine small business, not corporate-owned, a family business. 4 generations have collected paychecks and helped out behind the scenes. And we appreciate everybody who's helped us do this for as long as we have, and we appreciate those of you who will now take the dive and continue to support us. Because if you appreciate our tone in our approach to covering wrestling. You don't have to agree with everything we say, because heck, we don't on the same shows. Sometimes we, see things differently. But if you appreciate our tone and our approach and want to support us, that's a good way to do that. pwtorch.com/govip. Check out Chris Adams' report on tonight's Dynamite on pwtorch.com later this week. And like I said, we might, depending on how late it goes, we might do a post show after Grand Slam on Saturday. If we don't do it Saturday night, maybe we'll schedule it for a different time on the weekend. So check that out, and we will talk to all of you Friday right here on the PWTorch YouTube channel or on the Wade Keller post show feed following SmackDown.